Hi everybody, it's Claire here from My Creative Spirit with a shaker diary to share with you, made from the Ladies' Diary Papers by Graphic 45. It is quite a slim little book and it has got a lovely shaker front on it. I don't know if you can see. Behind some acetate and one of the ladies from the collection. The words cut from the signature sheet in a nice frame and then some cutout detail sitting behind it. And then inside, just quite a simple book with a signature page for every month of the year as you flick through. And they're all stitched in. It's quite easy to make. And if you carry on watching, you'll be able to make one too and follow along with me. So the pieces that we're going to work on to put our basic cover together are the two album covers, the spine section, a large piece of black card, and our shim, which is double width of the chipboard that you're using to make your album cover. And you want to prep your pieces just putting double-sided tape on the back of each section. And another little tip with the black card is just to mark the centre by folding it in half, short ends together, and just pinching and cutting a little nick just on the fold. So don't crease it, and then repeat that on the other end as well. And then that acts as your marker to centre up your spine. And that's the first piece that we're going to stick down. So take off your backing tape and line the spine piece up as centrally as you can between that top and bottom notch and stick it down. And then bring in your shim and one of your album covers. Take your backing strips off. Hold your shim up against the chipboard edge of the spine and stick down, making sure that you've got your top edges and bottom edges level with the top and bottom edges of the spine, and then repeat on the other side. So 1, 2, 3. I was thinking ahead. And position it and stick it down. Now, if you have difficulty positioning and lining things up, just use your ruler across the top of your spine and then you'll get your pieces straight. Then you can take your shim out, and the next thing to do is take your double-sided tape and put it all the way round your edges. Now I'm going to cut the corners off, so I'm just taking the tape straight round the corner and carrying on. It just makes pulling the backing strip off easier. But you could do it in 4 sections if you wanted to. So to there, rip it off, and then take off that backing tape. Go all the way around. If you just pull it, don't worry about the corners because we are going to cut them off. And then take one piece of your chipboard, just an offcut, put it across your corner and draw yourself a pencil line, and that's going to be your cutting line to mitre off your corners. So go all the way around and do all 4, and then take your scissors and just cut across that line. It's really important to have just that little bit of card showing underneath the chipboard, and you'll see why in a minute. So, and cut off. So let's get rid of those. And then I like to use my work surface to start the crease going top and bottom. So I always do long edges first. So lift your covers up and press down. I always do it away from myself as well. So then when I've creased them both, I start at the middle, and you can press and feel the top of the chipboard and press the card over it. And just go from the centre to one end and then come back to the centre and sort of roll over and press down as you go, and then you'll get a nice sharp crease. And then turn over and do the same on the other side. So fold it over in the centre. You don't want to pull it too tight that it bows the chipboard, but just fold it so that you've got a really nice crease right across the top of that chipboard. And stick down. And then take your ruler and just push down into those gaps between the spine and the covers. That's the gutter, and it just pushes the card into the gap really nicely. And then do the next one. You might want to lift the other side up. So press down, and then you get a really nice fold. And now we're going to do the ends. So you'll see now you've got little triangles of card sticking out over your chipboard corners, and you want to push them inwards so that they sort of curve around the chipboard, and that covers that chipboard corner and gives you a really nice finish on your cover. And then when you've done that, lift up like we've done before and just bring that end over and stick it down. And then turn around and do the same again. So push those little sides in. You can do it with your scissors if you want to, or your bone folder. I just do it with my fingers. And then lift up, get that crease going, and stick down. And then when you've done that, if you want to go over your edges with a bone folder, I haven't got mine, so I'm using my ruler, just to push down the tape between those two pieces, the chipboard and the card, then do. And then fold up your little book and just give it a wiggle, and that just starts the fibres moving around those corners. And then with all of my books, I like to just press the spine, so I only have the spine width at the back of my book, and the covers sort of sit down in front of it. And that's it. That is our basic cover. Now the pieces that you've got left are the two large pieces that are going to cover the inside front and back covers like that, and your centerpiece that we're going to stitch all the pages in, and a second centerpiece, and this one you just need to prep. So fold it in half. You can score it if you want, it's scored at 1 1/4, and then take your ruler and just measure up 1 inch and make a mark, and 2 inches and make a mark from one end, and then do the same from the other end. So start on the inch mark, measure in 1 inch and make a mark, and measure in another inch and make a mark on that crease line, and then take your awl carefully and just punch holes where you've made your pencil marks. And that is going to be the guide to put the holes in our pages. Then take your second piece, put your template over the top. Now you might want to work on a cutting mat to do this. So line them up and just very gently, you don't need to push too hard, just push the awl through the card template enough just to make a little hole underneath on the second piece of card, and then just pop the awl in just to make the holes slightly bigger. And then we're going to work on this piece. So take your ruler and we're going to mark 2 other holes at 1/4 inch. So the Tim Holtz ruler is really good. You can level it up by just making sure that your card is sitting equally between the lines on the ruler, and then make 1 hole to the left, or 1 mark, and 1 mark to the right, and then come down to the next hole, line your ruler up so you've got it straight, and do a hole to the left at 1/4 inch and a hole or a mark to the right, and then move right down and do the same again. Hole to the left, and a mark to the right. I don't know why I'm saying holes, because we're not making holes, we're making marks. Mark to the left, mark to the right. We've got 12 pages to add in, and 4 are going to sit in each of those holes. And then take your awl, and again, you might want to work on your cutting mat just to start the holes going. Just punch them like that. And then you can lift up and just make them a little bit bigger by pushing the awl through, but just mind your fingers. It's really sharp. So I'm only going through just past the point. And then you've got your piece prepped. Can you see the holes? So in the next video, we're going to put the pages. I'm going to show you how to put, let's just bring this section in, how to put the pages onto this section. So gather up your page pieces, your stamp, your ink, a corner chomper if you want to shape your corners. So gather up your pages, 12 of them. Well, you can put as many in as you like. I'm doing 12, 1 for each month, and I've created 1 signature that's stitched in 1 at a time for each of the 12 months of the year. But as I say, you could do any combination. And then the first thing to do once you've got your pages folded is just crease them with your bone folder, just to get really nice sharp creases, and then they sit in your book really lovely. So let's just do that. And then if you want to, let's just move the stamps out of the way a minute. If you want to shape your corners, then do. I've used the deco side of my corner chomper. I do them 1 at a time because they don't always fit in the same way together. So go around and chomp all your corners. Like that. And then ink your edges if you want to. So I'm using the Colourbox ink from Graphic 45. You could use any ink, and I'm just sort of going around, I'm holding the page together, folded sides together, and just lightly inking the edges. I did think I was going to put more detail on the pages, but then I decided to leave them simple. So go around and do each one of your pages. So really it's only just to put a colour on the edge, like that. Just check you're catching both edges. It just gives it a little bit of an aged look. and around. And then once you've done that, oh, we can start stamping. Just check you've caught all of the edge areas. And then stamp them one by one with your chosen stamps. I've gone for the Time to Flourish stamp collection because I thought that the wording on here was very similar to the lettering on the Lady's Diary papers. You could use any stamps, and just slide them out. And then what you want to do is decide where you want them to sit. Let's do it upside down on your page. So I went for the top right hand corner. So I lined my stamp up with it facing me so that it fitted in this top right hand corner. So I used one of the lines on, this is Tim Holtz stamping block, which I love because they've got the grid lines on and it makes it easy to line your stamps up. So when you're happy with where your stamp's sitting, then just ink up your stamp, position the block and stamp. So I'm just going to do 3 or 4. I'm going to do 4. So let me just line this up. Top right of the block, ink up. Just move that out of the way and put February on. So I'm lining the stamp block up with the top and the right hand edge of the paper. But you could line yours up anywhere you like. March is tricky because the M isn't straight. And then my thought in the book was you've got 4 pages to write whatever you fancy for each month of the year. So let's just do April. And stamp. So now they're all stamped, inked and prepped, we can start to put the holes in the pages. So let's just pop these back in here. And just check you haven't got inky fingers. If you have, then clean them up. So let me just do that with mine. On my little cloth. Because you don't want to get smudges on your pages. And how many times have we done that? Right, I think we're okay. So bring your pages in and your cutting mat and your awl, not the craft knife and not the magnets. Get the ink out of the way and bring in your folded black template, fold it in half and work on each page separately. Put your template inside in the fold, line up the top and bottom edges, making sure that it's, let's just turn these around, right in that fold line, and then use your awl just to push into the fold through the holes in the template. And then if you want to make them slightly bigger, you can just go down and do that. So let's do that on, do it on all of your pages. I'm just going to do my 4 that. Push it right in. Line up your edges. So I'm not pushing down too hard on the cutting mat, but just enough to make that little hole in the page. And then the last one. You've got 8 to go. It doesn't take long. Like that, so that you can see them. So I'm just going to push the hole through so that there is a sort of defined hole, not just a nick. And then the needle will go through the holes quite easily. And then you want your needle. I've used a tapestry needle and linen thread. I love the linen thread. It's sort of non-slippy, which is great when you're pulling it through your pages. So thread up your needle. I'm not sure what size, but big enough for the linen thread to go through. And let me just, oh, it's waxed, not linen thread, waxed thread, and it's 1 millimetre wax thread. So then we're going to start. So it doesn't matter about joins. You can join your thread easily on the back of your spine piece. But the first thing you want to do is choose a hole at one of the top ends. Poke your needle through. I'm going to come up from the side that I've punched the holes, not the side I punched the holes through, but the other side, the wrong side, the side that's got the raised bumps on it. So come up through one of your top holes and pull your thread and just secure it away from the hole with a little bit of double-sided tape. She says, where's the tape gone? Here's one. Like that, and then it won't come out. And then I'm going to work from left to right. So the first page I'm going to put on is January. So let's find January. And all you do is take your page, make sure that all of your pages are going on the same way. So you want all your stamping in the same place, wherever you've put it. You take your needle up through the top hole, down through the second hole, and down through the second hole on the row that you're working on. Who's calling me? And just make sure that you haven't got any loops as you stitch. So pull through, and then go down to the top hole on the same row, go through and through your page. You might want to do that in 2 stages, it's a bit fiddly. So through the black, through the page, and pull up. And you want to make sure that your page is lined up. Pull it. Then go back down the last hole and through the last hole in the row on your black and pull. And then just make sure that you've got no loops and no loops on the back. And then lift it up and come up through the bottom hole on the next row. And then you take your April page. They go in 4 sections. So January, February, March, and April go in the first set of holes. May, June, July, and August go in the second set of holes. And September, October, November, and December go in the last set of holes. So as you build the pages up, they hide the gaps between the holes. So I should have stamped the right things really, but if you remember that you've got 3 sets of 4 pages, and if you're doing months, put them in the right order. So all of the firsts in the set, January, May and September, all start the sections. So pretend this one is May, not April, and come up through your second line of holes at the bottom, up through the bottom hole in your page, down through the next hole up, and down through the next hole on your black, and pull. You've got a knot, and then up to the top or the lower of the 2 top holes, down through and down through the hole in the page, and pull, so you've got it nice and flat. Turn over, down through your top hole and down through the top hole on that middle line. So you're literally stitching in a line, going up and down, and then pull that nice and tight. Don't over pull it to rip your holes. Make sure that you've got no loops on the front and the back, and then from the back go through your black in the row of holes that you've got left, turn over, take the first page of your next set of 4, come up through the top hole, down through the second, and through the second hole on your last row, and pull all the way along down to the top hole of the bottom set, pull through and through your page. Oh, don't pull too hard because it will rip your pages, and then down again through your page, make sure you haven't got any loops, and up through your last black hole. And check that they're sitting nice and straight. You can tighten your threads a little bit just by lifting them and pulling. So that was the last of the first sections of each set. So you can see you've got black gaps in between. Now take your thread and go up the middle hole, so the next middle hole, making sure you don't go back through the page. So come up, and we're in the middle section, so you want to stitch the next page of that centre set. So May, June, it will be June, not February. I'm just confusing you. And you work your way backwards and forwards, stitching your pages in one by one, working across the 3 sets of holes. So I'm going to come back through here, pull, back down the middle hole in the black, turn over, pull it tight, back to the middle hole at the other end. Oops. There's a lot of flipping backwards and forwards, I know. So up, make sure that it's nice and tight, and then up through your page, down through the top hole, and down through the middle hole on the black. So you're literally doing running stitch up and down, adding each of your pages, and as you add them in, you fill the gaps between the holes. So the next one, I would go up the first row of holes and stick in the second page that fills that section. And you carry on until, working backwards and forwards until you've got all of your pages in. If you run out of thread, just cut it, stick down your end with the new end and start again. And after you've gone up and down and up and down, and you've stitched them all in, you will end up with a book like this that's got all of the pages stamped in. Now, if you find that confusing, you can always put your pages in and stamp them afterwards. And then it doesn't matter which order you're putting them in. So once you've got all of your pages in, on the back of your black section, cover it with tape. I've only got 3/8 of an inch tape, but if you've got the thick score tape, completely cover that with tape, and now it's ready to go into our book. You can push the tape down just by rubbing the wrong side down on your surface. So let's take all of these ends off as quick as I can. Oops. Uh-oh. Not so quick. Bear with. And then the ends. Because you want this piece to be stuck down really firmly so that you can't see in the top and bottom. The sides are going to be covered, but you want to put tape across the top and the bottom so that you get a really nice flush fit when this section sits in your book. And then bring your book in, put your two cover pieces to one side, and then the trick is to centre this over the spine so that it sits in between the gutters. So I'm just going to turn mine to the side so that, maybe not, let's do it this way. I've got the shakes. It's making me nervous. And you want to centre it so that you have got an even gap at the top and the bottom. So it's about 1/4 of an inch. Just want to move it. So I'm just moving it and jiggling it around until I'm happy with where it's sitting. And let's just check that it's sitting straight at the top. So it's worth taking your time doing this, but when you're happy that you've got the centre section in as you want it, really press those sides down nice and firmly, and then take your bone folder and just run it up and down to really stick those sections down. And then once you've done that, use your bone folder, just because the book doesn't want to fold anymore, just to run a groove in that gutter between the spine and the covers, just to start that crease going again. Because we've covered it, the book doesn't want to bend. So find that groove with your bone folder, don't press too hard, and rip your card after spending all that time stitching your pages, and then it will start folding and it will ease into place, and then you have got a really nice little book. Now I'm just going to sort of fold it backwards as well, and I'm pushing the spines inwards so that it opens nicely. And then I'm going to do the same with this. So push in and just fold back very carefully. it will all start to settle down. The fibres don't like to be moved, they like to stay flat, so the book goes a little bit stiff to start with, but it will settle down and you will be able to work it. And then all that's left to do on here is put the cover pieces on. So I've put tape on the back of both of mine, so if you do that too, and then take the backing strips off. Easier said than done. I've got a really lovely floor here that is sweepable, so everything goes on the floor, unless I'm using redline tape. If I'm using redline tape, then I just stick it on me, the backings, because they're so static, they don't want to leave your fingers. But the score tape is great, it doesn't do that. So take all your backings off. All the way around, and then bring your book in. And these pieces follow the line of the section that you've just added. So if you line the top edge up just to the one side of the crease in your spine, and then stick down, that covers everything up and gives you a nice front, and then do the same for the back. So line it up, get it nice and straight, and stick it down. And then you've got a lovely diary. One thing I forgot to mention was my card that I've used was, oh dear, what's happened here? Hopefully you won't have a loop. My card was 160 GSM. So if you were using copier paper, you'd get far more signatures in your book. But that's how to put it together. So in the next video, we're going to put the cover on. So gather up your pieces for that, and I'll see you back then. So now we've done all the hard work and put our book together, we can do the pretty end of the project and start matting and layering our papers together. So I've used the Signature Series coordinations that Graphic 45 do, a sheet from the Lights in this peachy pink, which I thought went really well with the colours in the project. So I'm starting with that piece at the base, and then I've got a piece of black cardstock to mat the lady's diary paper on. So mat and layer up your 3 pieces. And I always go quiet when I do this, concentrating. And last piece on the top. And ink your edges as well on this top paper. So I'm just using the same ink that I used in the book and just lightly going around the edges. Not too grungy. And then stick it down. Try and get it central. And then that can go onto our book. So let's just take this last set of backing tapes off. One to go. And then if your paper that you're using, if you haven't used the same paper as me, there is a pattern way on this and it goes this way up. So you just want to make sure that you've got your book the right way before you stick your piece on your cover. I haven't inked the bottom paper, I've left that plain. So just centre that up and stick it down, and then that gives a really lovely frame to put our shaker card on, or shaker front. So now let's make it. So the first thing to do is to cut out some little bits and pieces, and from the header sheet of the collection I've cut out the lady. She's just the right size to work on our shaker section, and also I've cut out the words from the top here, and when they're cut out, here they are. Because I've made a diary, I thought it was it'd be fine to use the words. So there they are cut out. Just cutting out, I get asked all sorts of questions about fussy cutting, and I just use a small pair of scissors, work really slowly, and I move the, I'm concentrating so I can't speak. I move the card and the scissors around so that I work around the curves. So I think actually now I'm holding the scissors steady and just moving the paper so that the scissors automatically cut a curve like that, and then come down. So it is a slow process. I'm leaving a little bit of cream showing outside the black lettering. I'm going to go round and just follow the line round. But when you cut them out, they look beautiful. I've cut out a lot of the cream in between the letters, so you can see if I put them on here, maybe better. So I've gone right up around the L and right up in between some of the letters. And then I've added just a little bit of glossy accents and just a sprinkle of glitter. That's the only glitter that's going on. And just left those to dry. So that's one piece to prep, or three. Then you want your lady. She's there. And then just a few offcuts. If you haven't cut into the paper yet, just cut clocks from the edge and flower sprays from the edge, just to give yourself a few of those. And then you want to cut yourself a frame from the Fashion Plates paper. Now I've taped two frames together, and I stuck a piece of black card on the back before I die cut it, just to give the paper some extra strength because it's going on the front of our book. So cut your frame out and you end up with your frame like that. Then put it on some black card and just draw a pencil frame around that inside section, and that's going to be our guide. Then cut yourself a piece of acetate that sits slightly inside your frame. And lastly, a piece of Ladies' Diary paper that is going to be the base for our shaker card. And then foam tape. I've used a big roll. I have a big roll of foam tape, and I've doubled the strips up just to give some extra height because I've got some beads and things to add into the middle of my shaker section. So I've doubled the height, and then I've gone around the edge with a black marker pen, just a pro marker, just to get rid of the white edges. because we've got no white on the project, I didn't think, well, I don't like to see the white edges, so I've turned them black. So it's quite easy to do that. And then you need some beads and sequins and stuff. So this is what I've used. If I do it, show you on the black. So I've got blue sequins. These are frontage little bits. So I've got green, because we've got green in the collection. I've got some blue bits. This was really fun. I'm just trying to find some flowers so you can see. So there's greens and blues. And then I've got peachy beads and real peachy little bugle beads. This was some iridescent frontage flakes as well. This is sequin waist. Some dark beads, just micro beads, and some red ones. All sorts went in, and some peachy ones. And then I found these little heart confetti, so iridescent hearts, and I thought they would work too. And when I put all of those together, I didn't use 10s and 10s, but just sort of mixed a little bit of each. I got this. There's a heart. They get everywhere, don't they? Doesn't want to move. So that's what is going to go inside my shelf card. So mix up your whatever you've got, matching your colours, and then we can get started. So the first thing we want to do is to put our acetate onto the back of our frame. So put some strips of double-sided tape just inside that inner edge. Like that. Take the backing strip off. Strips. It's really sticky. And take your acetate and your black card with your outline on, and pop your frame on there. I just think it's easier to work around that outline and on black card because you can see the acetate, and then just let the acetate drop onto the tape. And firm it down. Now, if it hasn't gone on quite as straight as you'd hoped, she says, just press down all the way round, and then you can always trim off the acetate that isn't stuck to the tape. So I'm just going to go along that bottom edge and just get rid of the excess, as that bit was sticking out. And then it's all stuck down, all the sticky tape is covered. So then turn over and take your lady and your words. We want to just space those and get them stuck down. So I've trimmed about 1/2 inch off the bottom of my lady, just so that she wasn't up at the top and we had a smaller space there. She's sort of down so that her feathers come just underneath the top edge of the frame, and then there is more space to put the wording onto the acetate. So the lady I'm going to stick on with double-sided tape. I've put some on her back already. But the words, we're going to have to glue them on. So let's take the backing strips off and get the lady in place. And if you want to ink her edges, now's the time to do so. I quite like to ink from the back, and then you cover the white edge, but you don't add any colour to the image itself. So let's just go all the way around. Oh, and stick. And then let's keep the frame straight. If the frame's straight, then I can see where I'm sticking her. Position her. You want to bring her in so that the feather on her hat is just on the top edge of the frame. Again, I'm just going to trim her bottom of the skirt off and re-ink so that she's lined up with the bottom of the frame. Okay, so now we can glue our words down. So you have to be really careful. You don't want to get glue on the acetate. If you get glue on the acetate, then you'll never get it off. So put a little bit of glue on a bit of card and just use your fingers. I'm just going to position the words on here again so that I know where I'm sticking them. So she can come there. Okay, so I'm going to start with the A. Again, if you want to ink your edges, now's the time to do so. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of glue on my finger and rub it onto the back of my letter. Make sure that the whole of your letter is covered, and then very carefully drop it exactly where you want it and press down. And if you've smoothed all that glue out before you go to stick your piece down, nothing will ooze out onto the acetate. So it does stick quite firmly. I'm just using normal tacky glue, just cheap as chips from Hobbycraft, but you could use any. Tombo's good, Cosmic Shimmer's good, Anita's is good, there's loads. So again, straighten up. Now I'm doing it upside down, so I'm not very good at doing straight upside down. So I hope that I've got that in the right place. And then press down. And then the last one. So glue all the way over. If you want to ink your edges, do. Smooch it out. Turn it over. Keep your sticky fingers away from the acetate if you can. And stick down. And press down. And that's it. Our words are on. And then if you want to turn over and press again, just to make sure that everything is stuck down nicely, then do. Nobody will see that inside, so it doesn't matter that it's all white. So now we're ready to add our foam strips. So let's get those. And just take off one side of your backing, and then just make sure that you're putting the strip down in between both edges of the frame and just coming in slightly from the edge at the top and bottom. Mine's just a little bit too long, so I'm just going to trim it down. Whoops. And because I've trimmed it, I'm just going to recolour the end. Just with my marker pen. I always think it's easier to do this before you stick your pieces down, but you can do it once they're in place as well. Turn over. And second long strip, let's just check. This one's a bit too long as well. I was eyeballing, obviously not quite right. So again, stick it down in between your frame edges and trim off if you need to, so that it just sits inside the top edge of your frame and then it won't be seen. Let's just redo that edge. And now the little short ones should sit in between. So again, if you need to, just trim yours down so that they fit. Trim. I'm not going to recolour those edges because they're sitting in between the two long ones. And it's on. Our frame is all ready. Now before I put the beads in, or before we add the beads and the sequins and all the sparkly things, I'm just going to go around the inside edge. This is just a little bit of talcum powder on a cotton bud, and I'm just rubbing it on the inside edge of the foam tape just to get rid of any sticky and stop anything from that we're going to add from catching. Like that. And then I'm sure there are products that you could do exactly the same with, but I just use a bit of talcum powder out of the bathroom. So I'm just blowing off the excess, cleaning up the acetate, making sure that there's no shadow on the frame from the front. And then we're ready to pour the beads in. Now before we do, you might want to put some double-sided tape on the back of this piece as well, so that we're ready to stick it down. So let's do that. And again, ink the edges of this piece. I've done mine. I think I did mine with a marker pen, but you could do it with anything. I always have to put a little bit in the middle. Right, so that little piece is prepped. And I'm going to have it the right way up, so my pattern's going the right way, so that it's ready to stick on top once we've put our beads in. So now let's bring them on in and tip them in. This isn't the best of things to have them in, it's got lips on. And you can put as many or as few in as you like. I think that's enough. And then take your tape off your foam tape. And trap them all, or encapsulate them. So make sure it's the right way up. Pattern is the right way up on here. And drop it over your foam tape. Ooh, I can't unstick my fingers. And press down. And turn over. And there you've got the shaker front for your diary. So before we stick that in place, here's one I made earlier. So we've got two. Maybe I'll put one on a card. We've got these little pieces to stick on. So I did cut out one single rose that seems to have gone missing. Let's just have a quick search. There was one single rose just to go down here, and then I thought it would be really nice to have some pattern on the front cover of the book, just poking out underneath our shaker front. So I was going to put a clock down there. So you can put your pieces anywhere. I've sort of used the corners of the paper, so my clocks aren't necessarily going to go the right way, and the flowers aren't necessarily going to go the right way. But fiddle around with the pieces that you've got until you're happy with where they're placed. You're not going to see that much of them, especially pieces at the side. So maybe I'll just do top and bottom. Don't know, let's have another fiddle. Clock there. I know that. Is that the wrong way? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Oh, maybe that way. It is upside down, I know. 1, 2, 3. Not that one. That one in the corner down there. It takes a long time, doesn't it, to decide where you're going to put things. So I'm going to put my pieces on the front like that. You have a fiddle around and decide how you're going to place yours. And then they all need to be inked on the back, or from the front if you prefer, but I'm just going to ink mine from the back. I always ink holding the pieces up in the air as well, and just resting my finger underneath. And into there. And the last one. And then we're ready to stick them down. I'm changing my mind. I'm doing that. So, before I change it again, let's get them stuck down. And slide and stick. Not too much glue. The less glue you've got, the more sticky it seems to be. And of course it won't ooze out under your pieces either. So place them down, make sure that they are stuck around all their edges, especially the little fiddly ones by the flowers. Smooch it out. And I'm just going to stick it up against that side there. Like that. And the last one at the top. I'm still looking for my missing flower. No idea where it's gone. Mind you, it could be anywhere on the table. Okay. Last one on, it's just going to come around the corner like that. And then we're ready to put our cover on our diary. So, exciting. Take off your backing papers. Let's just close up the ink. Let's take the magnets off my craft knife. Remove the backing papers. And the middle one. Get it the right way. Now you can position it anywhere, it doesn't have to be central. So I'm going to go slightly off centre so that you can see a flower at the top and flowers on the left hand side. And stick down. And there it is, our shaker diary. So I hope you've enjoyed making that, and make lots more as well. They make great little gifts and really doesn't take too much paper either. You can add extra paper to your spine if you wanted to, and to the back cover. And of course you can add pockets to the inside. You can do whatever you like. Don't forget to give me the thumbs up if you've enjoyed watching the video, and subscribe to my channel as well, and then you'll be kept up to date with all the new projects as they come out. Thanks for watching.